Good evening and welcome, my people. Um, it's really bizarre. It's very rare to get me 2 days in 1 week. But I've been experiencing some stuff lately and felt the need to get on this platform and talk to the people. Um, in order for me to do it, though, I felt I needed to have a female voice who, over the last few months of doing this YouTube thing, I found has been uh, uh, kind of like an oasis in the desert, in the sense that she tends to focus more on what we should be doing to get things right. But for me, I'd like to just spend a few minutes talking about the things we've been getting wrong. So we give people a couple of minutes to come in. And I want to just point you to the image that I have here as on the front. So here we have three generations of African people, and they could be anywhere in the world. This could really be in Africa, this could be in the Caribbean, this could be in the United States of America. But essentially, we have three generations of people who, let me get this back up, three generations of people who over time have evolved. Now, with the first two images, the first image you see is of King Shaka, Ishaka, and his wife. Shaka, if you know anything about Zulu history in Southern Africa, is the guy who is responsible for essentially uniting the Zulus and bringing them to a point of prominence, doing a deal with the British and allowing them to come onto the Cape, the South African coastline. In the middle, we have an image of, might as well be an African person anywhere in the world, but we're talking about the 20th century. We have the concept of family. And in the third image, you see a woman on a laptop with her child. I think statistics show that over the last 2 decades, there are more women having children out of wedlock, if you want to call it that, more single mothers than single fathers that exist. This is a concern, but it's not my only concern. I think the major concern for me has to do with the society at large. We've gotten to a point now where we are still looking for acceptance. We wake up every single day with the aspiration to not only copy the people who have oppressed us for so long, but we not just want to copy them, we want to emulate every aspect of their culture. I'll give you a couple of examples. We still buy brands at an outlandish rate. Now, I don't know the full statistics. I didn't bother looking at it. I don't think anybody needs to look at the actual statistics. Just go and look at the people around you and how much we spend time and effort on brands. We promote these brands to a point where we act as though they are ours. And in a minute, you walk into these stores where these people sell these brands and they will treat you like dust. All right? And we focus on these brands in such a way that we feel that it somehow legitimizes us and our existence. Then there's another thing. It's the way that we promote promiscuity to the point where the sanctity of marriage, sanctity of relationships is non-existent. Promiscuity in the sense that we don't need to be together. We only need to come together to have a good time and to have babies, but no real structure as to how these babies are going to go from one stage of their lives together, what's in their best interest, etc., etc. The third thing is we can't commit to anything long-term. Very few of us commit to anything long-term. And you could throw in the whole discussion about children, having babies, having relationships, where people don't see the necessity in staying together. People don't see the necessity in staying the course for your society at large. And then, of course, there's the music that we listen to. I'm not trying to act like I'm a saint. You know, I grew up like most kids, most Black kids in the 90s and 2000s, listening to hip hop, listening to R&B. So I don't want to be a hypocrite. But I must say the music that we're generating has become so negative. Not only negative, but it's gone to a point where it's almost become like a self genocidal marching song or marching songs. The overuse of the N word, the overuse of the B word. We promote criminality at an extortionate rate, at a rate where, if you really think about the average song that comes out, what it's actually talking about, if this was given to a 5-year-old child, they'll switch it off because pure black and white, there's right and there's wrong. We've become selfish. We have reached the point of selfishness. It is the me, 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 me. No we at all. No Ubuntu, nothing like that. And of course, the final one is, even when we realize that we have all these issues, rather than take responsibility, take accountability, we turn to words like trauma. The trauma I've experienced. Just this evening, I was talking to a friend of mine just this evening. And we were talking about just the weird experiences that we had by the age of 6 growing up in Africa. On the one hand, I gave him my story. I'll give it to you guys briefly. My story was, I lived in a place in Lagos, which is in Nigeria. It was the capital of Nigeria at the time. And at 6 years old, we lived in this like contained like town. And it was surrounded by these big walls. And the minute you stepped out those walls, you were in Lagos proper. And my mother wanted to buy tomatoes. And it wasn't uncommon at that time to send her children to buy tomatoes. So it's my first time leaving what you call the estate and going outside and buying tomatoes. So I was quite nervous, but I was like, you know what, this is what we do. Now, as I was crossing the street from the estate, the walls, the gates, to cross over to buy the tomatoes, at 6 years old, a taxi was just about to pass me. Now, in Africa, it doesn't happen as much anymore, but in those days, you had these taxi drivers that would have just like a whip. They'd have their hand dangling out the door, out the window, and just have a whip. And I just missed them because I didn't time the crossing properly. We didn't have zebra crossings, or whatever you want to call them. We didn't have any of those types of crossings. So I crossed at the wrong time. I just missed the car, and he whacked me in my back. And it was such a sad moment for me. But I tell you what, I never ever walked away I never ever had a problem crossing the street after that. Why did I bring that up? I bring that up because I could have chosen to call that a traumatic experience. A few months after, sorry, I keep going on, but a few months after, we had a block of flats in the same estate that we lived in that burnt down. And my neighbors who I was playing with only a few days or even maybe a few hours before had burnt down, had their house had burnt down. And my mother had gone over and we saw them pulling their burnt bodies out. This is all under the age of 9. These are, to some people, are traumatic experiences. But in this day and age, we will go and call it traumatic experience sometimes. And I'm not saying everything is black and white. Some situations are more extreme than others. But in general, we will call a situation traumatic because we have chosen to remain in a relationship that's not going anywhere. And we have exacerbated every sort of possibility of it ending in a marriage or anything like that. And it starts getting either abusive mentally or abusive physically. And we say it's traumatic when we have every opportunity to leave. You see, trauma in itself is not voluntarily staying in a, say, cheating relationship. Trauma isn't even losing a loved one. Because the point of us as human beings, if you're living life to the fullest, you're going to have heartbreak and you're going to have loss. We don't have a choice. But if every single time any of these things happen, we call it trauma, then what we are doing is not excusing our actions, our ability to walk away from negative situations, but also it makes me question our ability to overcome serious issues. And so I come to the conclusion that not only are we less accountable as human beings today, we have become weak. And it's time for us to wake up. So, with that, I'm going to bring on my guest for today. She is the multi talented, the beautiful, very eloquent. I am Courtney Michelle. So, Courtney, welcome for the very first time to my platform.
I
First of all,
know.
can we hear? Yeah. Are we there? Can we hear you?
I am
There
here.
we go.
Hmm.
Courtney, first of all, I just want to say thank you for coming on. I have
No,
been watching you
thank you.
for a little while now, and one thing I have to commend you for is the work that you do is not only speaking to an issue that is prevalent in, I guess, the Western world, but it's something that is going on right across the continent of Africa. Every
Hmm.
place that we have major cities, and that's more my focus is mostly in Africa. We are seeing the exact same issues replicate themselves. So we get to a point where we as a society get associated with being all the things I mentioned, promiscuous, selfish, and so on. And I think what you do is it shines a light on some of the issues that we have. Because this isn't, at the end of the day, this isn't about man or woman thing. This isn't a modern man, modern women thing. This is a society thing. We as Black African people, we
Hmm.
are we are putting ourselves in a place where we are dangerously going dangerously going to self-extinction. Sounds extreme, I know, but I say self-extinction in the sense that we are consuming everything that is detrimental to us doing well. I don't think it will succeed, but ultimately, it is what's happening. But anyway, I wanted to commend you because the work that you do is so important, and I just felt I had to get you on this platform so we could talk more about it. So
Yeah.
thank you and welcome.
Well, thank you. And I'm excited to be here, especially talking about this. And, I think with social media and me being on a platform, it's opened my eyes to see that my anecdotal experience or my Tennessee experience and what people have been saying here, it is global. I think a lot of experience that I'm experiencing, people are experiencing in other countries and other cities and states. So that idea is that men are having these issues and women are having these issues. It is global. So it makes me open my eyes and be like, we actually do have a problem in our community. And when I say our community, I'm talking about Black folks
Mhm,
over the diaspora.
mhm,
And talking about extinction, I don't think that's extreme. With people wanting to now go overseas and get a woman in Thailand and get a woman in Colombia, it is extinction. And we're not wanting to build or fix the community. We're wanting to go out of the community. And if we
mhm.
don't have anything or anyone wanting to fix what we have here, then it's gonna go bye-bye. And
Absolutely.
I love my people,
Mhm.
and I'm proud to be Black. I'm proud to be a woman. So I'm more interested in building and fixing what we have instead of going off and leaving it, because I think we're worth it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I
Mhm.
think so. I think so. And I think I mean, what I'd like to do is I'd like to just go back and just see how and when things started to go wrong. I think when it comes to this whole concept of where, even just Black families in general, how they started to deteriorate, we tend to talk about the baby boomer generation, the 1960s, and so stuff like that, women suffrage movement, women feminism, and all of this. But I think, and this is one thing that we have to be careful about, is I'm very particular about not blaming parents, right? I think there are some situations where you can, but I think ultimately we tend to look at our parents and people that came before us as though the they were so ignorant and didn't know what they were doing, didn't think about the consequences, etc. And I think it's important for us to just go back a little bit. So if you'll indulge me, I'm going to just go through some history
Okay.
and join in as you feel you need to. Now we're gonna have to get a triple screen or something up here. You still hear me, Court?
I hear you good and
Okay,
well.
okay, perfect. So what I have here is the divine triad of ancient Egypt. Okay, and this is ultimately what went into making, I suppose, early Christian church and the Father, Son, Holy Ghost. But what you have here is the Father, the Son, and the Mother, which we call Osiris, Horus, and Isis. Okay,
Mhm.
take that off now. Now, those three go into creating essentially the divine family: a father, a mother, and a child. And this is something that was worshipped. Isis, for instance, the woman, Isis or Set, was worshipped right across the world, across Europe, in Rome. They built temples to her. They built temples of her all over Egypt, Babylon, etc. The father was seen as the Lord of, amongst other things, the father Osiris was seen as Lord of the perfect black. In other
Mhm.
words, this is the perfect man in the sense that he is a king to his people and he's a husband to his wife, a father to his son. Then you have Horus, who is this person who eventually goes and avenges his father's death through the help of his mother and manages to reclaim the throne. This is where we get the Lion King. If you remember the Lion King story, the
Mhm.
father is killed by his brother, and then the son eventually comes back when he's older and fights for his father's throne. It's essentially where they got that story from. So, somewhere in the ancient world, we have this concept of family being divine. And anybody who has children with a person or even if you adopt children, you know that there is no greater success or power that you can have than birthing something and watching it grow until you
Mhm.
die. I think you're a mother, Courtney, so
Mhm.
you know what I'm talking about.
I completely
And I
understand.
and I think somehow this got derailed at a point. Now, Courtney, in your opinion, when we look at something like the Osirian drama, the Divine Triad from ancient Egypt, what sort of like images does it conjure up for you? Like when you think about this father, this mother, this son, who have gone on to be worshipped by so many millions of people around the world, what kind of ideas come up in your mind?
Um, well, the idea of that was the standard of what the nuclear family was. And it was the unit, I guess, then that was worship, and what made them what they are was it was, the mother, the dad, and the child.
Mhm,
And um, I think that was pretty much our playbook
mhm, mhm,
on how we should be maneuvering for success, for unity, for family. That was our playbook. This is what we need: dad in the home, we need mom in the home, and we need to procreate. We are creators.
mhm,
So that image of family back then, we already knew. And I think even when I think about like with my ancestors and what they went through and
mhm,
those things, it's like they got it right.
mhm,
They were successful, they were beautiful. We had community then.
mhm, mhm,
So I just see it, for me, it just speaks about a playbook
mhm,
on what we
mhm,
need to be doing, but we've just gotten so far off, completely off.
mhm, mhm.
Mhm.
And cool. Let me ask you. Just give me a little bit of your background. So you raised by your parents. Like, what's your background?
So, and I guess maybe we'll talk about this when we talk about history and where it went wrong.
Mhm,
Because I'm a child that was raised in the 80s. And so here in the States, the crack epidemic was hit the Black community hard,
mhm,
extremely hard. So my dad left when I was 2. Um, and drug issues, like a lot of kids in the 80s. So I was raised by a single mom, and my mom got remarried when I was 11, and she's still with my stepdad. Well, I call him dad too. So she's still with him. But, I didn't have a dad growing up. I had my stepdad, but he didn't take the role of my dad. He was my mom's husband.
Mm,
Um, but I got 3 brothers. So I grew up brothers and I was raised, to take care of myself.
yeah.
I was raised to be independent and be strong. Um, and I think that was just something of my mom really protecting me because she had to raise 3 kids when my dad left. And she didn't
Mm,
want me in that predicament. Courtney, you need to get your education. You need to make sure you have an incredible job to make sure that you take care of yourself. So that idea of being a strong Black woman
mm,
was me being completely self-sufficient and me not needing the help of a man.
mm,
Um, which I think I took it to a lot of us Black women took it to the extreme as if I don't need you. And now we're looking at men as an accessory
mm,
and not the family idea, the mom, the dad, the child is no longer because it's like if I don't need you, and in my
mm,
head I keep telling myself that, then why would I do anything to really get you?
mm, mm.
Mhm.
Let me ask you. We might be jumping back and forth here, but now I'm curious. So, at what point for you did you get to a place where you were like something's not quite right in terms of the way? Um, because what I'm trying to find out is your mother was remarried. She got remarried. She still
Mhm.
felt the need to marry.
Mhm.
It might have been the times, but certainly it's something which, most I think I forget the statistic in the States. I know here in the UK it's like 1 in 5 people get married or something like that. And in terms of Black population, because we only number about 2-3 million in the UK,
Mhm.
it's significantly smaller. But I'm sure in the States it's pretty similar. Very few of us are getting married.
Right.
And that's something that's shifted over the last maybe 25 years. Like people are getting married less. So for you, growing up, was that something which you felt was important to you? Was it something you felt you would do at some point? Or was it just something that wasn't on your radar? Just
No, it took a me thinking about marriage took a back burner for me because I wanted to live my life. I wanted to travel, school. I wanted to um all this for his career. So for me, getting married and family was like, that'll happen. Let me enjoy my 20s.
right, right.
Let me go. I want to visit this city. I want to move here. I want to live here. So I
Mm,
always thought that it would happen.
mm,
Um, someone's gonna marry you. Someone's gonna do this. But I didn't put any focus on it.
mm,
And it was completely different because in my career, I was excelling and doing great on that because I put effort in and I cared about it. And I always thought someone to come and not caring about it. And then the years started going, and I was like, "What? I'm in my 30s, and wait a minute, where he at? Where he at, Lord?" So I didn't, I was like, but I didn't start realizing where he at until I hit my 30s.
mm,
And and I'm still thinking, oh, 35, 36, that's fine. And then it's like, okay, now I gotta get back in the try to date. And I think that we're getting it wrong.
mm,
I think, and I'm not saying I'm not one of those that think that a woman shouldn't care about her education and you shouldn't worry about a job. Like, no, you need to be smart and you do need to know how to take care of yourself, but you need to learn how to be interdependent.
mm,
How those life skills and how your intelligence and your job is going to be a benefit and an asset in the relationship instead of that's what you're holding over another man to get in a relationship. I have
mm,
this and I'm smart this, so you better come correct. That was my mind frame.
mm, mm,
And I think it's a lot of our women's mind frame. Here in the States, I think it's 1 in 4 Black women get married.
mm.
Um, I think Black women want to
Wonderful.
get married. And I think we do. I think we desire relationship and companionship. I don't think we know how to do it anymore.
Mm, mm. And you know what's so funny is the irony of the whole thing is because my wife was should I say this? Should I tell this story? I'm not even sure if I should tell this story, but
We're
anyway.
in trouble now.
So some ladies I heard of were discussing one day, and many of them. uh, like approaching 40 or 40 already,
Mhm.
unmarried. And you get these women that approach the age of 40 and they just start really desiring things. Here, there's a statistic where here in the UK about women approaching their 30s, focusing on a career. And then when they get to their 30s, when they pass their 30s, they realize, my God, the career is not that important. So let me focus on having babies. And in the end, you have, it's harder to have children. But
Mhm.
anyway, these friends were discussing and they were like, oh, some of them were like, look, I've got to 40. It's so, you know, I feel terrible. I haven't married, haven't had kids. Whereas some other ones around the same age were like, you know what, this is the first time in history that we've been this free, that we've been this liberated and so on. Right. Um, and it just made me very concerned that that person might give advice to another younger girl,
Mhm.
and that younger girl will look at this woman who has gone 4 decades living on her own, never
Mhm.
really shown any commitment to a man or to anything in that sense, other beyond say buying a house and getting a mortgage. But in terms of like tangible stuff, but in terms of human beings, you see, Court, this is the thing that I preach about is we're very simple people. At our very core, black and white, we're all very simple. We want simple things. I think we get complicated. The social media and all these things complicate the way we look at life. But in reality, things are very simple.
Mhm.
We want relationships. We need relationships to go on. You see, the only sign of success in this life is what you're able to leave another generation, not physical wealth. So I just wanted to ask you, when you see women who are, at least, you in your case, you were thinking, okay, you know what, marriage, you're expecting it to happen. But there are some now who are completely anti it. Why do you think that is? They're anti marriage.
I think it's cap.
Yeah.
I think it's I don't want to get married. No, it's just because they haven't the right man that they want hasn't
Mm,
asked them to marry them, hasn't asked to be with them. So I
mm,
think it's a defense mechanism.
mm,
It's if I say I don't want it because in my mind I'm probably not going to get it, then that kind of eases the blow. But I think 99.9% of men and women want to be with someone.
mm.
No one wants to live this life alone.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I think women want marriage because it's more secure for us as far as financially, and it's harder for a man to up and leave if he find a new tail. So it's security that we want. Beyonce put a ring on it.
Mm,
So we do want that. We have to get out of ourselves and quit being so prideful and be honest. Yes, I do want to be a wife. Yes, I do want a relationship. I just never seen it work. I've lived with my single mom, or my dad wasn't there. So I haven't seen a healthy relationship. So I don't know how to get it. And the men that I have been with have done this or I've done that. So once we start being honest and let our guard down a little bit more, I think it could open up a conversation. And I think men would appreciate that.
mm, mm,
It shows vulnerability. But
mm,
no, I think it's a defense mechanism.
mm,
Majority of women want to be married. Okay.
mm.
You find a new woman that's married. Well, my husband. Well, my husband. Well, my husband. But how many times you gonna say husband in a sentence? They excited. Okay, everything showing a ring. Yeah, just drink. We see your ring, lady. No.
Like that, like scratching her hair like that. Yeah.
Right, girl, today I went to the mall
Mm,
today. Put your head down.
mm.
We do want it. We just don't know. I'm speaking on experience on how to get there.
Yeah.
And I think we're our worst enemy. We are preventing ourselves to really getting what we want. And I'm not in that space anymore. And I see what was told to me, what was indoctrinated in me. I have a daughter. I'm doing the complete opposite. I'm telling her, look, you need a man.
Mm,
Okay. Look at your mom. This is, I'm having to do this and this because, no, you need that.
mm,
So once we start saying the need,
mm,
maybe, or I've been in these YouTube streets for a couple of years now. Um, and getting even that across to some of our women is like, how you gonna, I don't need nobody. I got it by myself. And I just think that's not true.
Mm, mm. Um, okay. I think what's coming across, and I think what I think we've all seen this, is that at some point, somewhere over the last, let's say, 2 or 3 generations, like we've just the messages. Oh, what's that echo?
Here, I'll mute.
Okay, might be me. Um, Somewhere over the last like 2 or 3 decades, the messages have gone completely askew, right? So we started, my father's 90, almost 90. So he was born in 1933. He's been married to my mom for about 40 years. He was married to somebody before, and they had children. Um, but my father, like many men of his time, grew up in the village, like this is before, this is when Nigeria was still being built. So he's in a very rural surroundings. And unfortunately, he didn't grow up with his parents. His mother died quite young. His father sort of abandoned him. And so it just shows you that these things happen everywhere. But he still felt the need and the importance to get married too. But speaking from a guy's perspective, over the last 2 or 3 generations, even the men, our mentality towards marriage, towards relationships, towards the things that we consider to be men things, have also gone astray. So the women, no doubt, and I think there's been a lot of beating up on the women for sure, you know, but I think the men too. I think there are certain responsibilities that we have to take on. Like, for instance, I have a daughter, and I look at my daughter, and she's 5 years old, and all she's interested in is playing with her dolls. She wants to take care of her dolls. She wants to be a mummy. She wants to take care of, she's very feminine, nurturing things. So I don't even think it's a thing where the women today have like lost the femininity in that sense. I think they have it. It's just something happens between uh not just a toddler, being a young child and being an adult, that transforms them. And I really want to try and figure out what this thing is. What is this thing? What is this time period? Is it school? Is it the society? Is it Western society? What is it? Because every woman, I believe, starts out thinking in that sense. At least most women do. I want to get married. I want to be a princess. I want to marry a prince. My daughter is the exact same way. So I'm watching as a parent, thinking to myself, how can I usher her through the way that she needs to be? You know? And so I guess the question I'm trying to ask now is, how, if you don't mind, how old is your daughter? Like, what sort of age group is she?
She's 7.
She's 7. Okay. So around the same age. Where do you think, at what point do you think we need to start an intervention? I'm a teacher. So at what point do you have an intervention? At what point do we need to change? Because it's clearly, if nothing's going wrong up until a certain age, and there's this gap and then things change. At what point do we have an intervention, and how do we have that intervention? Because you see, the danger is us as a society will just keep perpetuating the same cycle, the same dangerous mindset, the promiscuity, the selfishness, the lack of commitment to each other. If we don't figure out a way, of course, in our own families first, but in the larger society second, if we don't figure out a way and a stage to intervene. So my question to you, how do we intervene? Where? And yeah.
Well, intervention for me, it's, you intervening when you see it's getting off the rail or it's completely off the rail. And then you're like, okay, let me shake you up a little bit. Let me get you back together. I think the goal and the idea is that we shouldn't have to intervene with our girls that idea of wanting to be a mother and a wife and being princess. Like, I want our girls to be like that in middle school and in high school and still have that idea of being a wife is important. It gets off the rails because we expect little girls to want to play with toys and, um, you know, playing mommy with the baby dolls. Like, we expect that from our little girls. But then I think once they become a little older, start their little period, then it's the real conversations. And as parents, the real conversations that we've been having with our girls is, oh, focus school. You
Mm,
need to make sure that you set yourself up where you don't need a guy, you don't need a
mm,
man. And if I'm
mhm,
telling a child that at 11 and 12 years old, and she's indoctrinating that year after year, well, then when she's
mm.
out on her own, what is she going to think?
Yeah, yeah.
Um, I would be a millionaire if I knew the pill to kind of get our, especially older women, to get our younger women on board. But I got to see,
Mm,
our younger women even listening to us?
mm, mm, mm,
We have no role models in this society right now of Black women really saying that you being a wife is amazing. We don't see couples that we look to. People fake these couple goals, but they break up next year or they're not even married. So, but we're not
mm,
seeing healthy relationships. And we're seeing the celebrities that are not getting married, having babies, they're celebrating that. They look happy, they're boss chicks. And so, what we have to look up to is that there's no Claire Huxtables anymore.
mm,
And to think that
mm.
our society or media and TV has no influence on our kids, I think that's a lie.
Thank
It
you.
does.
That's yeah, very good point. That's a very
Yeah.
good point. Very good point.
So yeah, so I can tell my daughter this and that, but then if her homegirls and she's seeing all the Nicki Minaj's and she can get it, or I, you're battling. It's a
Mm,
battle. Um, I'm trying, but I had to try with myself.
mm, mm,
What do you
mhm.
expect our kids to grow up when our women have the same mentality?
Yeah.
And we do. I think it's sad. There was research saying that there's 60% of men are lonely or single, and women are now not as lonely but getting into homosexual relationships with other women, and then the single parenthood. We've just lost it.
Mm,
But I think we need each other.
mm,
So I don't know how to get it back on a larger scale.
mm.
How do we do that?
Well, from my own opinion, so look. Ultimately, I think the responsibility lies with men. Ultimately,
Okay.
you see, never mind the statistics about how many men are raising their own kids, blah blah blah. Never mind the statistics. When men are men, when men are doing what they're supposed to be doing as men, these situations, I'm not saying in every situation that's the case, but when men are supposed to be doing what they're supposed to be doing as men, society goes forward one way or another. You talk about the 20th century, 19th century slave trade. You talk about all the way back in Africa. Ultimately,
Hmm.
a family is a nation. It's the building blocks of a nation. And when the man is there, able to be there. Like I have two sons, and my oldest son is going to boarding school in Africa next year. Right
Hmm.
now, most people here in England, where I live, think this is bizarre. But me, like most of the men that I grew up around, my best friends still today, we went to boarding school in Africa. And being in boarding school teaches you a sense of responsibility. So you go there from the age of 11, you stay there to the age of 16 or 18. Ultimately, you become some sort of a man. And I think a lot of men now, maybe it's because they themselves are raised by single mothers. No disrespect, I'm just being very honest.
Hmm.
A woman cannot raise a man, not
Okay.
to be a man. I would actually go as far as to say this, and please excuse me if this sounds rude or disrespectful,
Okay.
but once a child has stopped breastfeeding, the role of a mother is not as important as a father. You see,
Ooh.
a father, sorry,
Mhm.
a mother's job is largely for nurturing. It's to counterbalance the aggression that a father should show. A
Mhm.
father, ultimately, like in the case of my father, for instance, I have gone. I grew up afraid to do things, even till today, because I'm scared that my father will come from somewhere and slap me. You know, because you see, if a man doesn't have somebody that he's scared to death of,
Mhm.
that he's if there's no man that can step into a man's life and say, what you're doing, you need to stop it.
Mhm.
If there's nobody, my mother always used to say to my sister, she said, you need to marry a man who there's someone that can talk to him. And I think, regardless of where you are in the world, that is something which we as Black people have maintained up until recently. Because the problems you're talking about that you face in the States, that we face in the UK, go to Africa. Go to Africa. Go to the cities of Lagos, Accra, Kinshasa. It doesn't matter. We are going through the same issues,
Mhm.
sadly.
Yeah.
And ultimately, what is happening is when there's divorce, when there's separation, where there's premarital marriages, babies out of wedlock, all these things, what you're doing is destabilizing a society, putting the
Mhm.
society at in danger. But until the men step in and try, and I'm not saying we can go back and fix what we've got, but going forward, if the men that we have decide that I want to be this pillar in my family, I want to be this pillar in my society, and it comes down to this point I made at the very beginning about selfishness. We are all selfish now.
I
The men
agree.
don't think long term, the women don't think long term.
Mhm.
And we get to a point where when we realize that we should have thought long term, the child is already there, the child is already grown. Maybe the child doesn't even like either of you. The child is making decisions, taking decisions that are ultimately going to put them in danger, one way or another. So, us as men, Black men in particular, we are we are in a place now which, if we're not careful, if we're not careful, and I'm talking about worldwide, if we're not careful, we will reach a place where governments will be raising our children. It's already happening in some places, of course. Governments will be raising our children, and our children will continue to be, our sons will continue to be very feminized, and our daughters will continue to be very masculine.
Mhm.
And ultimately, what's going to happen is, this is why you notice with this LGBTQ thing, they keep adding letters every week. Every
Mhm.
week, letter. My wife was telling me about, there's I, there's A, there's S.
Yeah.
They keep adding letters because everybody is searching for something new, because they haven't found it in the simplicity of being, I am, this is my father, this is my mother, this is how I'm supposed to be. So until we as the men find a way to step in and sort this problem out, and I really don't think this is I don't know, I don't know what the numbers are like, but I really don't think this is happening in, I don't think it's not happening. It's definitely happening. It's just we don't
Mhm.
see it come to the fore as much anymore. Like you said, things like the Cosby Show, but not just the Cosby Show, just the idea of marriage happening.
Yeah.
Now you see this generation. I teach in schools, and you don't think, you'll ask the kids in the class, you're like, how many of you want to get married one day? The Muslim kids, 9 times out of 10, will put their hands up, because in cultures like Islamic cultures, it's still a thing that's important. Non-Islamic kids, it's like, why should I get married? We're talking about 12 to 14-year-olds.
Yeah.
So ultimately, fathers stepping in. Yeah, you were going to say something?
Yeah. Well, I was going to ask you a question because, I definitely think that it is the men that's going to have to steer our community back on track.
Mhm.
Um, but what would you say to the men that's saying, yeah, I want to steer it back on track and I want to lead, but the women are not allowing me to lead? How can men steer it back on track when women are telling you, I don't want to be on your track? How about that?
Mm.
So
Yeah.
how can, if it's the men that is going to fix it, But it's the women that's not even opening up to even listen to your suggestion on how to fix it. Then what?
I mean, look, we're not going to save every generation. And I would actually
Right.
go as far as to say there is a generation that's gone. There's a generation that's gone.
This generation is gone, you say?
There is a generation, and it's a generation that overlaps. It
Okay.
overlaps. It might be two, it might be three generations. The generation is gone. You can't fix every situation, but we can go forward. You um, ultimately, this is what I believe. I think human beings find a way to correct these things. The world will always find a way to correct itself.
Mm-hmm.
It always, you had millions of years ago, you had dinosaurs. There was no room for human beings to walk this earth as long as dinosaurs were around. But the world had a way of correcting it. Wipe out the dinosaurs, let humans come and rule.
Mm-hmm.
We're not the biggest animal on the planet, but we find a way to rule. Right? Um, um, there's a vast sea around us, there's loads of water around us, but we managed to make use of the land in such a way that we can manipulate everything else. It's the same thing with this. Ultimately, there are some dinosaurs that will die out.
Mm-hmm.
They will die out with their creed, they will die out with their mentality. And this is learned behavior. You see, because once the ones who are there doing the job of parenting, and this is mother and father, they're doing the job of parenting. Once they are there continuing to do what they need to do, as time goes on, this culture of unity and marriage will become important again. And even some of those dinosaurs, their offspring might be like, you know what, the way this doesn't work, let me go and do this. You see, even feminism as a concept, especially in this modern day era, a lot of the people that talk about the things that, women, we can do this, men, we, whatever, we're equal to men, they're just regurgitating stuff. They've not really thought about it.
Right.
Because what is freedom? Freedom to make a choice. I don't think at any point in history freedom has not been available in terms of marriage. Yes, there were certain constraints in terms of, okay, a woman is under a man, etc., in that sense. But it's still a choice to be there. It's still a choice to be there. I think when the choice becomes a problem is when you say that I need to be on your level or above you. That is a new learned behavior. And I think once that behavior starts to be like, okay, let's just put your knife down, put your shield down. Let's just look at each other.
Mm-hmm.
Ultimately, what do you want? You want for us to be able to have a life that goes forward. And it's going to mean that there will be some things I can do, some things you can do, and there's no need to try and cross over. Because otherwise we create more and more chaos. And I think if men step in, I don't want to put the blame solely on men, but ultimately the responsibility will fall on men. If you're in a marriage or you're in a situation where you leave your family because your wife is a problem, she's a problem, society will look at you as the man, as the problem. No matter how much you try. Those men who are suffering right now, trying to get custody of their kids or whatever, no one gives a damn about what they're going through. Only they know what they're going through. But ultimately, society will paint the picture that they are the problem. So because we have this, we also have to take the responsibility on to try and fix it. You understand? So I think this is where if there are men who are going through situations like that, some situations you won't be able to rectify, but you need to prove to your child that I did my best. Did you hear that? I saw the thing with Kelly Rowland.
Mm-hmm.
Is it Kelly Rowland? I think it was Kelly Rowland. Destiny's Child girl. She said she didn't grow up with her father because she went on a talk show and she said, I didn't grow up with my father because my mother had told me all sorts of stories about my father wasn't trying. And as I got older, I found out he tried so hard. He tried so hard, but it wasn't as simple as that.
Mm-hmm.
What you have to do, I have a friend who's fighting for custody for his son at the moment. I said to him, I said, you've got to fight this thing. You've got to prove in the courts that you have done everything. Because at the end of the day, the society, the storylines about fathers plus your mother, the mother, is going to do whatever she can do to try and paint the picture to favor her. So unless you can prove to your child when they come and confront you one day that I tried my best, you have failed.
Yeah.
And this is the tough job of parenting. This is the tough job
Mhm.
of being a father. I recognize I've been married uh, 12 years now. I have
Mhm.
something like 11 or 12 years. And every single those years have not been easy.
Mhm.
I am a modern man in that sense, and my wife is a modern woman. So we're still having to fight all the evils around us that are telling us, because remember, to end a relationship is easy now. You'll get so much comfort from people. There's so many things that are designed to keep keep people away rather than keep people together. So even in my situation, it's not been easy. But I realized the moment, God forbid, I ever decide to give up, the whole thing will come down on me like a ton of
Yeah.
bricks. So we don't have a choice as men. Yeah.
Well, speak about the word modern, because when you say modern women, well, a lot of people call modern women to Black women or just women here in the West.
Mhm.
That's a negative word. Calling someone modern, a modern woman, is a negative word.
Mhm.
But for me, we all are modern. None of us are living like the 1950s. None of us had parents that raised us to churn butter. So we're all are modern. However,
Mhm.
you might have some more traditional ideas or how it should be, but you know, the word modern, is that a bad word or a negative word right now to say that, oh, she's very modern? Do you look at that as something negative to be modern?
Well, I look at the word as, I think the it's and this is another thing. We're we've become so ignorant.
Hmm.
We've gone to a point where ignorance is championed over intelligence today. People talk, and they'll say things like, everything's like, or I feel. No one ever really
Hmm.
says what they mean. They don't know how to think. So even when we just associate modern women, and I found, and I wanted us to do this actually,
Okay.
I decided to look up uh, Collins Dictionary version of a modern person. That's a member of any of the living races of Homo sapiens, characterized by erect bipedal posture, in other words, upright standing people, a highly
Hmm.
developed brain, and powers of articulate speech, abstract reasoning, and imagination. Clearly, nothing to do with the uh, call it Kevin Samuel's school of thinking, right? In terms of what
Hmm.
modern men and women are. You see, for me, a modern woman and a modern man are people that live in this modern society and have taken on all the good and bad that this modern society has given, like feminism, like LGBTQ, whatever else is after, like, and also some semblance of what used to be. But
Hmm.
they are so distracted. Modern people are so distracted by the noise that we're blinded by what we really want.
Hmm.
And this comes down to the issue that I'm talking about. We don't know what we really want. We're not able to articulate ourselves properly. We have been distant from things. So a modern woman or a modern man ends up being a caricature, a comic book version, of a person that existed in the past. In other words, a woman is saying, okay, now I need to be free from my husband. Doesn't mean I don't want a husband. In other words, that's the traditional part. But but
Yeah, so I
yeah,
can't hear
yeah,
you.
yeah. I need to be on the same level as my husband.
Hmm.
Which no time in history has that been proven. And this is and in regards to modern women, the concern for me is this: modern women think they are so much smarter than all the women that have lived through history. They think they know so much more than all
Hmm.
of them, in the sense that all those women, you see, if women were designed to rule as men were, it would have happened by now. And there's few moments in history you can look at it. There's the Kantakes or Candaces queens of Kush that existed for hundreds of years, where it's just women. The line of rule came from the was matriarchal, came from the woman. So you had female rulers essentially. That existed. Didn't last long in terms of world history, but it was there. But it wasn't sustainable because this is not what women are supposed to do. It's not to say that a woman and a man have different levels of importance. No, they don't. They're both as important as each other. But when it comes to driving the society forward, the woman has to take the back seat. Now, let me deal with the modern men. And Court, I asked you before, I said, let's do some choice adjectives, right?
Yes.
Choice words to describe what modern men and modern women are. So I'm going to give you mine, okay, for modern men. You ready?
Okay. I'm ready.
So modern men are resourceful. In other words, they're far more resourceful than men 50 years ago who would go and do one thing. So modern men know how to make money, different streams of income. But we're also selfish. We think about us. We don't think about the larger good of our society. It's about us. In other words, we're not far thinking. I would say modern men are boys. Modern men are boys. We think like boys. We dress like boys. We act like boys. You see 50-year-old men with baseball hat, sneakers, like I'm not saying it's by the way, this I'm not dissing anybody if that's how you dress. What I'm just saying is there's no demarcation between us and the boys.
Yeah.
We look the same, we talk the same, we use the same slang, we chase the same girls, right? The last thing I say about modern men is we're cowards. We don't commit to things which involve the greater good of the community. Now, modern men actually are not all the modern men are not all the men that exist today. It's a particular type of man. It's one who subscribes to the things to do with modernity. Because some people don't. Some people just like they do. There's some people who are just not interested in being on social media. They live in this modern world, but they don't subscribe to it. But the modern men are the people that I've just described. Those ones who subscribe to it, hook, line, and sinker. And they end up raising, unfortunately, the same modern men. Okay? So that's my modern men. I'll give you my modern women, and then I'll let you do
Okay. Okay.
Get ready for this, Court. You ready?
I'm ready. It ain't gonna be nice.
Modern women, just like the men, are resourceful, but they are lazy. They are fake. Fake in the sense of appearance, the RuPaul drag queen look. Fake in the sense of not being able to think, not being able to match the way they think with the way they act, or the way they want to be with the way they are. In other words, a modern woman can get a great job, but cannot get a great relationship. It's an oxymoron in the sense that you can create something that is in the long term not going to do anything. But the thing that matters, you find you're incapable of doing. Modern women are for casual relationships. They are better off for one-off relationships. Some of them want a wedding, but they definitely don't want to be wives. They just want a wedding. Modern women, like the men, are selfish. They put their self-growth, their businesses, their appearance ahead of even their children sometimes, their husbands, their partners, and the larger community. They make too many excuses for things they should be doing and try and rationalize things that they shouldn't.
Well,
Modern women are is a two-way street, whether it's in life or in relationships. Um, when in reality, one side shows respect one way and another shows respect the other way. In other words, uh, a man, you show him respect, and that's you show him respect. A woman, you show her love. To both of them, they might interpret it both as love and respect,
mm-hmm,
but ultimately, one needs more of the other than the other. So one needs exclusively respect, and one
mm-hmm.
needs exclusively love.
I agree with that.
Modern women, modern women are miseducated, just like the men. We have far more information, but less intelligence.
Mhm.
We know so much about we know so much about so many things, but we can't form a coherent opinion based on any kind of nuanced view. And even if you're proven wrong, even if they're proven wrong, they are unshakable.
Mhm.
And my final one, modern women do not want to be wives. So that's
Hmm.
how I see it, my dear.
Okay, okay. I wanna get back to
Somebody said my list is getting really long when it comes to modern women. I'm sorry, but yeah. Go on, let's go. Let's go. Let me hear
that.
your
Okay,
list. Let me hear your
I'm
list.
writing this down because you said that modern women don't want to be wives. I've heard that before. Um, but I'm gonna say my list, and then I would love for you to expand on that on why you think that.
Okay,
Okay.
go for it. So give me your mod men
So
are.
my modern for men, I said frustrated. I said emotional. Frustrated, I'll explain that one. I think with modern men right now, they're just frustrated on the environment on which they are having to live as far as trying to be with a woman. I think they're frustrated. I think men in general want more of a traditional mindset of a woman, but they're not getting what they want. So I think they're really, really frustrated. I said emotional because we're in a
Mhm.
time right now where, you know, men are more in their feelings. I see men get hurt quicker than I've ever seen men get hurt before their feelings. Um, yeah, emotional. I'll keep it at that. Um, I said practical, practical and flexible. So I think
Mhm.
that men are easy to please than women are. So I think even with modern men, that what has been consistent over the years is men being able to be practical and adapt to situations when it comes to relationships. So their woman might not be a 10, but she's a solid 6, but can tear up in the kitchen and keeps a good home, and they're willing to forfeit some of the stuff that maybe they wanted for those basic needs. And I think that that suffices a lot of men. I don't think that it does with women. I
Mhm.
said immature, and that goes with what you said as far as them being boys. I see a lot of immaturity a lot of times when I'm having trying to have a conversation, and it's the communication seems to be off. And sometimes I feel like I am speaking with a child when I talk to some men. So that was kind of my list with men, modern men. Frustrated, adaptable, emotional, flexible, practical, immature.
Say that again. Say that again, please.
Okay, my list was frustrated, adaptable, emotional, flexible, practical, immature.
Okay. All right. Okay.
All right,
Okay.
so now to my ladies.
Okay. Let's go.
I said hurt. I think women are hurting. And I think we put on a facade to mask the hurt. And I think we put on a facade to mask insecurities. I said we're modern women are insecure. And that's where
Mhm.
you get the fakeness from. The insecurity is
Mhm.
they're scared to be themselves. So we're going to hide it and mask it a lot of ways, physically, BBLs, weaves, lashes, the nails,
Mm-hmm.
because we don't want you to see us. Um, you know, filters, Instagram, again, we're masking ourselves. I also put that women are immature. I think women
Mm-hmm.
are super childish. Um, I said modern women are assertive. Assertive and bold. I think this is a time that we're in where women are just so sexually blunt, so
Mm-hmm.
willing to put everything out there and tell you what she's gonna do, what she's not gonna do, what you
There you
better
go.
not
Yeah.
say.
There you go. Yeah. Yep.
So that's the assertiveness. Like, we gonna tell you what we feel,
Yeah.
but we're
Yeah.
not gonna listen to how you feel about us. So in that case, I said delusional. I think we're living in an absolute delusion. I
Mm-hmm.
think we want a whole lot, but we're not offering shit. So,
Mm-hmm.
um, yeah, hurt, delusional, stubborn. I think my list is now longer than the guys too. So that was my list: hurt, delusional, assertive, strong, stubborn, immature. Ins- Did I say insecure? Yeah,
Yeah.
say it
Okay.
again. Insecure.
You know what's interesting is we've actually said similar things. Maybe mine has been a
Mhm.
little bit more rude, but you know, we've said the same things.
Mhm.
Ultimately, I think very few people in the chat, there's people coming for me in the chat, but ultimately, we all recognize that these are traits that they have. And I just want to also say this again. Let me just reiterate: we're talking about a particular sect of people.
Mhm.
By the way, not everybody that's around today is modern. There are people who still have uh because you see, modern, like 100 years ago, you wouldn't call them modern compared to 100 years before that, and you wouldn't call those ones modern compared to 100 years before that. Somehow, this modern thing seems to be associated with the new millennium. We're not
Mhm.
talking about so what I'm saying is it's not everybody that exists today. We're talking about a particular sect of people. So if you don't feel that you fit the criteria, we're not talking about you. We're talking about a particular group of people. And there are many people, I'm sure, who will uh, 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 um, try to rebut some of the things that we've said, and they will demonstrate these same features that you and I have talked about,
Mhm.
right? Anyway, so you asked me a question, I think, before. What was it?
Yeah. So you said modern women do not want to be wives.
Yeah. So modern women want to
Mhm.
get married, but they don't want to be wives. You see, being a
Mhm.
wife and getting married are two very different things. And it probably it demonstrates itself very easy in the TV world in the sense that uh, these women will get married for 5 minutes, divorce. You know, you see, being a wife, being a husband, being a wife is a commitment.
Mhm.
It's a commitment that involves uh, not just yourself, but your children, your grandchildren, and the generations that are unborn. It's saying to yourself, the two of us are here to make sure that we set a legacy for generations to come. It's not something that we do just so we can have an event. It's not an event. Marriage is not an event.
Mhm.
And love is not a a staple in a marriage, right? Commitment is the dietary staple. It's the bread and butter of a marriage. Commitment. And many women, because love is more of a lustful thing. It's like a feeling. It's like love is one of those things where it comes in and it goes. And I think when it comes in, they want to get married. And they
Mhm.
get married and the love goes and and they're like, wow, we married.
Mhm.
Whereas if you go in saying, I am committed to you, I am committed to you, that means you want to be somebody's wife and somebody's husband. I am committed. The commitment goes further than love, as we have seen everywhere.
Yeah.
The celebrities are not really the best examples. I don't like using celebrities as examples, but let's just take the celebrities.
Okay.
Those who have had a commitment, I'm just talking, let's say Sam Jackson and his wife. Denzel Washington and his wife,
Mhm.
versus the more modern relationships that we see. The modern relationships that we see, 2 years, 3 years married. We'll see somebody like Rihanna, for instance, and people will go and praise this girl for having children upon children with a guy who, no disrespect, I do not see them ever getting married. And if they do, it won't last long. Nor do I see them being together long term.
Mhm.
But we'll promote that versus Denzel Washington, Samuel L. Jackson. When you hear some of their interviews and you see some of the things that they've gone through, Sam Jackson was in drug rehab.
Mhm.
Denzel Washington, one time he was like, we were on unemployment benefits and so on. But you look at them, and the testament of it is always in the children. You always see it in the children.
Mhm.
You know, the children are able to go and build off what you've done. I said to my kids, I said, I'm harsh on you because you have to be better than me.
Mhm.
I cannot allow you to be worse than me because I have failed as a father. And I think this is where the commitment in a relationship, if it's not there, the love will destroy it because
Yeah.
the love is not real. Love is not real.
Hmm.
I hope that answers your question. Okay.
Yeah.
What do you want
Thank
to do?
you.
Should we read these? Should we read some of these comments? We got
Mhm.
a we got a few of these comments. Okay, I'm not gonna read through all of them, guys. You need to step up with the super chats. But let me go through a couple. So these are my regulars, these are my people. So Martinelli 47. I don't think women realize when you cross a man, is that what you mean? There's no
Mhm.
coming back. Men can't take disrespect. That's not in our DNA to be violated over and over and bashed. And this is it. I think we talked about this. You see,
Mhm.
men, our daily bread is respect. A woman, it's not as much respect. It's not. It's more love. Maybe you can clarify that for me. But it's love. It's not
Yeah.
respect for me. Court. Let me tell you something. Okay, who you are. You respect me. It's the only thing that can make me come out of my character.
Mhm.
Okay, who you are.
Mhm.
Right? And I think just like Martinelli just said, that has to be the way things are. And I think many people feel, and I actually, again, this is why I have to give men a lot more responsibility, because I'm like, you tolerate disrespect on such a level that you end up becoming, you tolerate so much disrespect that you end up becoming a punching bag for a woman.
Mhm.
That's not a good thing. It's not
Yeah.
a good thing. You become a punching bag for a woman who is not necessarily designed to think rationally. So you end up just being her punching bag. I mean, and again, TV is probably a bad example, but when you see all these like love and hip hop, not love and hip hop, what's the other one? The married retreat, couples retreat.
Mhm.
Some of these abusive women, I'm just like, why are you with her? Don't you have some respect, self respect? Anyway,
Apparently not.
Court, do you have anything to add to that
Well,
comment?
no, I think, and I've heard that before. Men need to be respected, and women have a need for to be loved. Um, but I think since we're talking about modern women, I think that we modern women want it all. So we want all the love. We want you to think that we're the greatest thing on earth, the most beautiful. We want the flowers, we want the Valentine's days, we want all that. We want you to respect us, we want you to read our minds. We don't want to have to tell you anything you should already know.
Mhm,
So I think with modern women, we want it all.
mhm, mhm.
And if you don't give it all to us, then some reason, um, I guess we sometimes think we can find it in somebody else. I think modern women, we're always searching to get 100% of everything
Mm,
that we want. And if we don't get all of it, then we think we're settling.
mhm, mhm.
What's the
Yeah.
difference between love and respect to you? So if you say, I don't care about the love, I need the respect, because I saw in the comments someone said, well, love is respect. You think it's different.
No, I know I agree with that. So,
Mhm.
but you see, to a man, the primary thing that matters to a man, to a husband, and let's just, I'm talking always in terms of marriage.
Yeah.
Okay, I don't believe in dating. Don't believe in any of that stuff. Right? I believe that you should get with someone for the purpose of marriage. I'm sorry, call me old fashioned. So
That is
I say
okay.
that relationships, sorry, love is the way you show love to a man, if you want to call it, because the word love is really not what we're supposed to be using. We're supposed to be using the word commitment. But in order
Okay.
for you to show me that you are committed to me, you have to respect me. Now, on the flip side, for a woman, the way I she needs me to commit to her is to show that I'm willing to protect, to provide, uh, and I'm not just talking about monetary because it's not always about that. But I'm able to
Mhm.
protect, I'm able to provide, I'm able to solve. Right. So that's the lifeblood of a marriage, a relationship. Love is fleeting, my sister.
Mhm.
Love is, if we keep using it, it keeps getting confusing. Because they're like, what's love? What's love? What's love? They say they made a whole movie called What's Love Got to Do with It? A whole song, What's Love Got to Do with It? Because it's not about love. It's never been about love.
Mhm.
We wouldn't, me and you wouldn't be able to sit here if if every relationship that ever existed before us was about love. People
Mhm.
would have broken up within minutes if it was about love. Every generation before us knew about commitment. When Kunta Kinte married, what's the name of the lady in the book?
Mhm.
He jumped over the broom. It was to make, he made a commitment to her. He made a commitment to her. In those days, they could be so sexually promiscuous because the slaver would have them go sleep with this person to breed with this person. They could be been promiscuous, but he committed. I'm going to focus my energy on you, right? And she focused
Mhm.
her energy on him too. That's what it is. It's about commitment. Love is not the phrase I like to use that much. I can say I love you, of course,
Yeah.
but really I'm talking about commitment. I'm committed to you. I'm
Yeah.
attracted to you. All these things go hand in hand. All right, we got a lot of comments. I'm not gonna read all of these. It's ridiculous. But thank you, people. Lizzie, my sister. Lizzie, don't be annoyed with me. I'm just talking, just speaking the real. Lizzie. Uh, all right. So, Court, you have lawyer fans here.
Hey, so
Lawyer
some
fans here.
there's some people I see. What's going on, James? I see.
Mr. Show.
What's going on?
Jordan,
Yeah, hey,
Jordan, Mr.
Jordan.
Show. Other day, Courtney, I was like, shake my head. They always good too. Okay, so yeah, here's a good comment. So it comes from household media and society as a whole. I think this is when we're talking about just how society is changing and how men have to step up and do different things. Okay, where we at? Where we at? Let me see. Let me see. Okay, here we go. 40 mil by 27. That's a nice name.
Mm-hmm.
Nice name. 40 mil by 27. God willing, you get there, my brother.
I hear you on
Uh,
that.
we as black men in America don't stand for anything. We have watched or willingly participated in the destruction of our community, but have the audacity to try and point the finger. Go for it, Court. What do you think? What do you think about that comment? Your stateside, you tell me.
Man, I would hate to agree.
Mhm.
Um, but I kind of agree with that. And this is not a slight on black men, but I mean it is what it is. With me talking to men right now and the climate that we're in over here in the States, um, I don't see anyone caring about the community. People, men are saying "f them kids," which is the kids that make up the community. So if we effing the kids, then what is that going to say to the next generation? So no, it's people literally have told me I want this community to burn. I'm out. I'm gone overseas. So, but yet the community did not get bad by just women.
Yeah,
It
yeah,
takes two to tango.
yeah, yeah.
It takes two to tango. So if it's F them kids, want the community burn. I'm going overseas now. F you and black women. but yet we got in this jam together, but you're so willing to leave and not try to work on the community, then I 40 mil by 27. Keep dropping bars like that, you might make it at 26.
No, and I agree. I think it's in line with the stuff we're talking about. Like
Mhm.
you have to look at the men. You see, it's hard to divorce the men from this problem because we are the void that needs to be filled. If
Mhm.
we if societies are a vacuum, you take the man out of the household, his job has to be filled by someone, whether it's the wife, whether it's or the mother, whether it's the government. Some way, the job of a father will be done by police, by schools, whatever. Right? This school to prison pipeline thing. So absolutely, I agree. I think the problem is now we've so much has happened that women are now in a position where they have started to become men, and that's where I can see why there's confusion about this. All right, Kim OC, let's move quickly. We need to set the path for the young ones, especially our young men. Absolutely. Especially the ones who are being raised by single moms in particular. Court, what were you saying? What would you have to say about this, by the way?
When you said the path for younger ones, especially, correct. So, what does that look like?
Yeah.
Because we talk a lot what we need to do, but what does that look like? What is it? What does men setting a path for younger ones look like?
Mm-hmm.
And how do we turn this generation around? You said the generation of one of these generations is going to have to take a L.
Mm-hmm.
I'm assuming that it's going to be our generation, the 30 and 40-year-old generation, taking a good L.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But if we're taking an L, does that not mean the next generation is going to take a L? We've progressively have getting worse and worse as far as our communication skills, us trying to be together, making it work, sustaining relationships. We have continuously gotten worse and worse and worse. And I don't see anything that I'm confident enough that would change the tides in like 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
And that's sad to me.
Mm-hmm.
Like with our children, what does it look like for them? If men are not wanting to get married anymore and women are saying they don't want to get married or don't know how to commit to a relationship to be a wife, then how, what the hell are we here for?
Mm. I mean, I don't. Cool. Let me ask you. I don't know what it's like where you are, but
Ugh.
there,
Ugh.
there are, there
Ugh.
are, there are, there must be men who don't necessarily fit the dream profile that want to get married.
Mhm,
Remember, I was telling you the story of some random women a
mhm,
few minutes ago. The same random women. One of them has two guys in play. One guy is a good dude. Wants will marry her tomorrow.
mhm.
Another guy's a star. I won't say what he does, but he's a star.
That's
And
not.
needless to say, he don't really want to like
Of course not. No,
other guy,
he's a star.
but she'll stick to the star.
Of course.
And sometimes we don't. We need to do a 360, turn all the way around and look.
Mhm,
Sometimes we only look 45 degrees here, 45 degrees there. Go all the way around, and you might find that there's somebody there. He just might not fit the profile.
mhm,
I truly believe if you're a half decent looking woman, there's a man that wants to marry you. He
mhm,
might be 20 years older. He might be overweight. He might not earn as much as your previous guy, but there's a guy who wants to marry you.
mhm.
There is a guy. Courtney, I could go dump you in my village and you'll have 10 proposals in 15 minutes.
Mhm,
Now, most of the guys would be fishermen, farmers, maybe one or two of them would be businessmen.
mhm,
Maybe some of them might have ulterior motives. Maybe.
mhm,
But ultimately, if we're talking about the commitment part, not the wedding, look all the way around. There's always somebody.
yeah.
Always somebody. I refuse to accept that men in droves are refusing. I'm sure they are. I'm sure there are loads of men, but there are people that still understand because it's also an age thing. You get to a certain age and you just feel you need someone. We just had a pandemic
Mm-hmm.
where people were deprived of sex, deprived of companionship, deprived of conversation. That left people with a taste in their mouth that says, something's not quite right. And I
Mm-hmm.
need to look at what the statistics are for 2021 and see how many marriages happened versus 2020, 2019. But I'm
Mm-hmm.
pretty sure it went up. I'm pretty sure. Whether it lost or not is not there. So if it has gone up, it shows there is a desire to get married and there are people available. But we switched up. We switched the lights off. We're looking 45-degree angles. Go for
Yeah.
it. Go for it.
Well, here's the thing with women. And again, I'm speaking about women because I am one, and I
Yeah.
also, this is my issue maybe too. It's in women want to feel it. The Zaza Zoo, that's what I call it. It's the butterflies. It is. And the men that are wanting to marry or will be great in a relationship, it's that lack of, like, with the woman that you're saying with the star and then the good man, but that star is going to give her the Zazazu. It's unfortunate. I think that's what's keeping a lot of us single, because we're chasing after feelings, which again, what you said, feelings, they're fleeting. Um, but that's what we want. That's what we want. The butter. We want the, he texted me. Oh, I can't wait. What's he doing? Like, we want that feeling. Um, but a lot of the men that are practical and reliable and dependable, that work hard, that are focused on their job to be great providers, to be great protectors, that feeling is not going to be consistent. And I think women always want that feeling. And again, speaking to myself, that makes it hard, because you want to marry a man that you feel woo all the time, and woo. That maybe it's the honeymoon phase. I don't know, but that's our problem.
How about this?
Wrong
Is
feelings.
is the what you call it? Zaza? What would you call it? Zaza Zoo.
Zaza Zoo.
How about this? How about the Zaza Zoo? You don't realize it until your deathbed that you had it. In the sense that there's someone by my side.
Yeah.
You see, because the reality is, if the Zaza Zoo ends up being a priority, as time goes on, that Zaza Zoo is gonna go anyway, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the question is, do you say, okay, Zaza Zoo, let's try and figure out how we can like make maybe like a Zaza, or a zoo. Zoo.
I can give you a little Za tonight, baby. I
It's a
ain't got
zoo.
no Zaza Zoo. Give you a
You
little
know,
Zoo.
if maybe there's a way we could split it in half and say, okay, I could do it. I could live with this. Because again, we've spent this whole conversation talking about the larger community.
Mm-hmm.
Ultimately, this thing doesn't get fixed if the larger community doesn't get back together. So the question is, the Zaza Zoo, if we focus on the Zaza Zoo, the community stays where it's at.
It does.
If we focus on just the Za, or maybe just the zoo, the community at least keeps going forward.
Mm-hmm.
It keeps going forward. People are together. Children are safe. Wives are safe. Husbands are safe. Everybody's going in a direction. Because all we're doing is getting through life. All we're doing is getting through life and preparing the next generation of adults for adulthood to go through life. So I don't know. Maybe some Za.
No,
Za,
I
baby.
agree. It's funny. I had this conversation. It was like Friday night. I stepped out, right? And I was having a conversation, and we were talking about dating, of course. And someone was saying, again, I'm the lady said she was at an age where, she's decided to date the guy that doesn't give her those feelings, but he's always there and he's reliable. But she's like, I'm really trying to be in this relationship with someone that is good old guy and that, but I don't feel that way that I felt with an ex. And one of the gentlemen was like, well, told her that she needs to not need to find him, but she was like, you got to have that feeling or it's not going to last. Do you agree with that?
I've been married 11, 12 years. My wife's a beautiful woman, by the way. My
She
wife's
is.
a beautiful woman.
Mhm.
Always has been, you know. But the Zaza Zoo doesn't last.
Yeah.
It's really commitment. And it's funny when you push through in marriage, actually, when you push through the
Mhm.
dark times, you feel that Zaza Zoo. I have this theory that marriages are based on a 30-70 percentage.
Mhm.
Uh-oh. 30% in the sense that for 30% of the time, things are great. And for 70% of the time, it's mundane, it's repetitive, it's the same stuff. But in that 70%, you hold on to the 30%. You hold on to those memories of goodness because it goes in cycles.
Mhm.
This year might be a tough year, next year becomes a good year. You understand? You might have 5 bad years and then 5 good years. It's a cycle.
Yeah.
So in my marriage, like the 70% have been there for real. Like they've been there, believe me.
Mhm.
But those few 30% keep you together. That's
Mhm.
why I say the Zaza Zoo is it's a real feeling. But you
Mhm.
can't have it all. It can't be Zaza
Yeah,
Zoo.
I know you can't
Za,
have it all.
za. It's Za and Za. That's it.
But
That's
that's
all
what
you
I'm
can get.
trying to tell you. The modern
Modern
woman,
woman wants
we want
Zaza
it
Zoo, and
all.
that's why they have a 15-minute relationship,
Right.
$10 million wedding, and a $20 million divorce. You know?
You know, I say this all the time, where I think that stability is sexy. I
Mhm.
think that when I think of my future is always me and my husband sitting on a porch looking at our children and grandchildren while we're sipping on some spiked lemonade. Like that is what I see in my
It's
future when
Spike
I'm
Lemonade.
listen, okay? I'm spiking that joint, okay?
That's it.
But I see us on our little rocking chair with our little spiked lemonade looking at the children.
Mhm.
And that's what I see in my head when I turn 65, 70 years old. That's my future and what I see.
Mhm.
And I don't, you said this before, but we're not looking to our future. We're just doing the now. We're being selfish. So in my head, I'm looking at things and I'm like, how do people think they can sustain doing what they're doing now? How does that look like in the next 10 or 15 years? With people that are not wanting relationships, don't know how to stick it out, don't want to be married, you want to be 60 by yourself?
Mhm. 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 Mhm.
And I say that to men and women. It's like we have to get this together because I mean, we ain't gonna be all perky all the time. It's shit gonna be
Mhm.
flopping and you gonna
Things will
be
be
old and gray. So
things will be like Dumbo is, for sure.
flopping,
It's
just
just
with drooping.
everywhere.
You call me stupid, right? So I'm like, but I see that and I'm just like, man, and what I do now is preparation for my future. And I even think
Mhm.
if some of us would get that in our head, what you are doing now is what you're preparing yourself for your future. So if you're wanting someone, a companion, someone, a husband, a wife, then you need to start focusing on that now.
Mm, mm.
But we don't have that mindset of that. We're not saving money. We're not looking to invest. We're all wanting it now. We want to feel this now.
Yeah,
And it's
yeah,
not getting us anywhere.
yeah, yeah. And then we end up, and this is the thing. All you can ever do. There's one of my favorite phrases is by a man called Amilcar Cabral. He was a
Mhm.
late revolutionary leader from a place called Guinea-Bissau in West Africa.
Mhm.
He said that we must act as though we answer to and only answer to our ancestors, our children, and the unborn.
Mm.
So, our purpose on this life, the only people we have to prove anything to are the people that came before us and the people coming ahead of us. So, when you look around and it looks bad, do not focus on the things that are around you.
Mhm.
Focus on your lineage. So, if you need to make the changes, in your life, because ultimately, me and you are having a conversation about modern people and what we could do. Ultimately, we're not talking about the people. That's why I say collateral damage. Some people will not. Some people will die like the dinosaurs.
Yeah.
single, alone, a meteor would blow them up. But there's some people that will find a way to plan for the meteor arriving
Mhm.
because they'll have a family nucleus. They will have enough children so that they can keep the family going in case all of them don't make it. It's the Bible parable. This the child that plans for the future versus the one who's short term thinking. You understand? So it's you can't. We have to ignore what's alongside of us and think ahead. You know.
Yeah.
You know. So yeah, go
So,
for it.
well, let me ask you some questions, okay?
Go for it. Go for it, my love. Go
Okay.
for it.
So, you know, the Bible speaks of the man that findeth a good wife findeth a good thing.
Hmm.
And I've always been told that with men, when they know their wife, they can see it and they know within a month or two, it's like, yeah, I can see myself marrying her. What does that look like? What does a wife look like in this modern day age where women are not, like I said, churning butter and we're not home, it's more women are cooking, but they're not making biscuits from scratch. They're opening up a biscuit from the grocery store and that thing popping. So, what does a wife look like in this modern time? What do men need to be like? Oh, that's you need to look out for these characteristics in a woman because she would be a good wife. What is that?
Well, I'll say this. There's a saying. I heard this saying before I got married. When it's the right time for a man, he'll meet the right woman, and when
Mm,
a woman meets the right man, it's the right time. So the point is that for us men, we don't necessarily look for it. As you said, you know when you see it. But what it is a woman who is nurturing to an extent. She doesn't have to be super Mother Teresa, but she's a nurturing person who you feel adds to helps you become better. Helps you become better in the sense that you feel she's willing to assist you in very minor things.
mhm,
Not and that's in terms of her nature. It's not like she's like, oh, you know what? She's thinking about it. She just does it. You see, that honeymoon phase, those first few weeks of a relationship are telling. You know everything you need to know. You know everything you need to know because
mhm.
you spend the next 10 years unpacking the things that and this remember what I said about the 30% and the 70%. You see that 30% in those first few weeks. So
Hmm.
that even when the marriage starts and it becomes difficult, you remember that this is in you. So why are you not doing it? And that's what keeps you there. That's what keeps you there.
But what you see in those few weeks, because we all know we're going to give you our best. You gonna get the best of me. I'm
Yeah,
going.
yeah,
You not gonna hear me pass
yeah.
gas.
We
What
marry,
you?
but we men marry potential. Men don't marry a perfect woman.
Yeah.
We marry potential. We marry you based on your appearance, like what you are capable of.
Hmm.
Because you see, as time goes on in a relationship, if you learn and if you're really committed to each other and you really are focused on studying each other, it gets better. It gets easier. I mean, look, I'm 10 years in, so it's still relatively young. I'm 12
Hmm.
years in, it's still relatively young. There are people with 50 years. But me and my wife went to Dubai last year. And on the way back, we were on a plane, we were walking through the airport. We saw this couple, they were African Americans actually, been married 50 years. It was our 10-year anniversary. And they're walking and the man just grabbed the woman's bag and helped, and because big airport, and started walking alongside her. And we just went up, we just saw them, and the dynamic wasn't like oh lovey-dovey and everything like that, hands. But there was a moment where there was something on his, I think it was on his jacket, and she went and just wiped it off.
Hmm.
So my wife goes up to them, like, "My God, you guys, like, how long you been married?" She's like, "We've been married 50 years."
Hmm.
So, you can't tell me that their relationship is all about, you know, Zaza Zoo.
No.
Their relationship is all about there is something in her in that time that they've spent together that they've come to understand what the other person needs.
Hmm.
She needs her bag to be carried, and he needs somebody to wipe his jacket when he's having a conversation with somebody that he doesn't realize his jacket's dirty.
Hmm.
You know, so it's we see it like we men see what they want quite clearly, quite clearly. The question is whether or not we have the men who are looking for it and know how to act on it. That's the other problem today. Is there some men who just don't know how to act on it.
Do you
But
think majority of men want to be married?
at some stage in their life, they would want to
Yeah.
be married. At some stage,
Mhm.
and it's the thing of maturity of men versus a woman. See, a man, many things go into a man's thinking before he gets married. It's financial. He's thinking about how much do I have money for a wedding. Then there's some men who are like, am I really ready? Am I really ready to just get out these streets? And then
Mhm.
there's some men who are just like, that's the right time. I was reading Spike Lee's autobiography, and he said
Mhm.
he was 35 years old. He was at the peak of his career, just made the film that he'd been dying to make his whole career, Malcolm X. Goes to an event, sees this woman. He was on a date with another woman, and he just stopped. He's like, are you single? And he told us, like, look, I'm ready to get married. I want you. Pretty much within 3 months, they were engaged. Same thing with me and my wife. I saw my
Mhm.
wife, I was like, I'm gonna marry you. Within 3 months, we were engaged. And we did our traditional wedding within 18 months. We do a
Mhm.
traditional wedding first. Within 18 months, we did our traditional
Mhm.
wedding. Simply because I knew her. What I needed to do, I did. And it was just for me to take her,
Yeah.
you know? So it's there. And in the circles that we are, like part of this is cultural too. Where we come from in Africa, like marriage is still like a thing. It's
Yeah.
still important.
So,
It's
okay.
still very important, and people still like expect it to happen.
All
So
right.
that's part of the reason why also.
Yeah, so it is, I think it is culturally because, with what I know a little bit about some Igbo men, a little bit, right? That there's no dating. It is a courtship. I'm going
Straight
to court
courtship.
you. And
Straight.
and it's vocalized. And I say with me when I hear that or heard it, it was a breath of fresh air.
Funny. Funny.
But it was a breath of fresh air because here in the States, you don't hear anyone saying Courtney. You don't hear that at all.
Mhm.
But someone literally telling you, and I think a lot of women would love this if a man is outright and saying, "Hey, look, I want to marry you, and this is how we're going to do it." th- it would take women aback, but we're not used to here. We're trying to guess and trying to figure out or trying to put on this for him to see us as a wife or marriageable. But those words, American men don't say that. I've never heard American men say or tell me, I'm gonna court you.
Mm,
And this is courting and this is not dating. And I want you to meet my family.
mm,
You won't hear that maybe
mm,
in a relationship for 10 years. And you're like, wait a
mm,
minute, we
mm,
go, it's 10 years. I ain't met your mama yet. So it is, I think, a cultural difference.
mm, mm. And one thing that also with our culture that's very different is even before I can marry her, before I can even give her, I bought my wife a ring. I couldn't give it to her. Like she could see it, but she can't take it home
Mhm.
because until I've gone and done what we call the knocking on the door, right? Until I've gone to her father's house with my relatives, because you see in Africa culture, the families marry each other.
Yeah.
So my family goes to her family. We negotiate. And this shows you the value of a woman. I know people say it's derogatory, whatever, but there's a reason why you pay a bride price or a dowry for a woman because she's
Mhm.
valuable.
Mhm.
She is valuable. So you have to go there and get on your knees, and somebody in your family has to beg for this woman to marry their son or their nephew, whatever the case may be. And
Mhm.
until they have approved, you are not married. And it means also that when there are problems in the marriage, those two families have to come and sit down, at least traditionally. Now I will go as far as to say that in America, this is something that's it was at some point practiced. Maybe
Mhm.
not the exact same way, but the idea of going to meet somebody's father is the same thing. It's just a more watered down version, slightly.
Yeah.
Going to
Well,
meet
the
a woman's father.
the
The
men
problem
had.
is now. The
Mhm.
problem is now. I think the problem is now is that the women that exist now uh, are so far away from having a man represent them that most men just as a defense mechanism just assume every woman is like that. Most men are just so on the defensive when it comes to women for fear of not making them appear misogynistic or too masculine or whatever. And they don't want the backlash either.
Mhm.
but they are there. I really, really believe they are there. And again, maybe it's the circles. I don't know, but like I know in church circles, in certain church circles, like it's still a thing. People getting married, like it's still a thing. I know, obviously, immigrant communities, it's still a thing. I don't know. I don't know, Court. Honestly, I think I mean, I look at you.
Mhm.
You're a personality.
Mhm.
So already that puts you in a very unique place where men are going to be looking at you and saying, she's there, right?
Mhm.
She's there. But I think at least from what I can see, your personality shows as if you are willing for a man to step in. And I just think the circle that you're in terms of do I call you a celebrity? Do I call you that?
No.
Whatever. But
Don't
the kind of place
I
that
just
you're in,
rub my mouth on the internet. That's it.
the place that you're in kind of sets you up for it can the perception is it sets you up for failure. But I really, really think, Court, I really, really wow, what this is what I suggest. Courtney,
Now,
I'm gonna
give
organize a
me
trip.
a
I'm gonna
look.
organize a trip for you to
Come
come
on
to
now.
Lagos. Come to Lagos for a week. I've been telling you, by the way, you need to go to Africa.
Yes.
You need to go to Africa, Court. Come to Lagos for a week. There are men that will want to marry you. They will be open with it. They will not all be billionaires, they will not all be millionaires, but they will be men that will be willing to marry you.
Mhm.
And I think and I think what that will do is it will show you that the issues that you have more to do with the society you're in, the culture that you're surrounded by, because it's not a marrying culture anymore,
Right.
not on a broad scale. But most places around the world, by the way, still have marriage as a priority. So it might be there's passport bros, but there's passport sisters too. There needs to be that too.
I know, right? Like
You know? There needs to be that too, For real, for real.
not make me into a passport gal.
Yeah. Is that what they call it? Passport gal. Look, so
Passport gal
listen. Here's what my sister Lizzie said. Lizzie said, if you'll be married in a week.
in a week.
Lizzie, I think you're Nigerian, right? Or Ghanaian, I can't remember. You'll be married in a week.
In a week.
In a week.
Passport
There's
gal.
still people that want to get married. Like, believe me. And that's the thing. And but like I said, Court, I have to be honest, this 360-degree view is
Yeah.
important. It cannot just look at different angles. You have to look all the way around and be available because at the end of the day, that lemonade that you're going to be drinking, the person that's next to you might not be a star. He might not be worth more than a couple 100,000 by the time he's dead, but he'll be next to you.
Yeah.
And you will only find it if you do a complete 360-degree turn. You'll be
Well,
married in a
I
couple
don't
weeks.
like. Look, I'm not into that. Been there, done that, and that's not for me any interest. Um, I'm attracted to men that are assertive, that are leaders. I'm attracted to men that makes the decisions. I'm indecisive. I know that. So I like what you want me to do, what you need me to do, where we gonna go. Like I like a leader. Um, so that the whole idea, I don't like men that like the spotlight and all extra. Like that's my job. Let me be glamorous. And you be the man to protect me and say, Courtney, you don't need to go over there. You need to do this and move this way. And this looks better. So, I appreciate that type of man. And then I can I only want to be with a man that I respect. And that respect, you have to have integrity. And, so I don't require much.
Yeah.
But this space, it's hard to kind of date and be in a relationship because I'm on here and I speak, and I think people look at me, I'm getting personal now, as like as like just this, and
Yeah.
I'm so much more.
But
And
I'll say this though, it's attractive. Your
mhm,
personality comes off attractive.
mhm,
to men who have that same mentality. Look at most of the guys in this, most of the people in this thing are men who've been commenting.
Yeah.
You have to understand, and the compliments about you are
Yeah.
from men,
Look, oh, Jordan.
right? So they're there. They're there. Look at the look. Jordan just put. Look at that.
Jordan, that's my buddy.
Right.
Hey, Jordan.
Right. Now, most of the men find this attractive. So I don't know. Maybe we're getting too personal. Maybe we should.
No, I feel like I'm talking to my psychiatrist. Come on.
Yeah. But I think sometimes you have to be careful not to indirectly place a condition on the type of man that you see. Indirectly, in the sense of so I was listening to some of the stuff that you said. I want a man who's not. Once you say I want a man who's right, I think naturally what you want in a man in terms of assertive man, a man who can make decisions, the man that will marry you ultimately will have that. So sometimes we place extra conditions on people we've never seen before, and we expect them to demonstrate that early in a relationship. And I think once you kill the idea of dating, just kill it. I date now, my wife, right? I'd never dated her before. I date my wife now. If you kill the idea of dating and you say, my focus now is to get married and start a family or whatever. If your focus is that, then I think ultimately the men that will present themselves, very quickly you will know if that's in their line, in their future. And I think you just have to go into it without any expectations. No conditions. Don't place any conditions on it, because sometimes you don't know when you've created a barrier psychologically. You understand? You don't know if, I want him to be like this. You don't know whether it's created a barrier. My wife's big on this thing. She's like, write down what you want, the bare minimum you want in your husband. Bare minimum. Is he funny? Bare minimum. Not anything else,
Yeah.
Anywho, so
yeah.
Went to church today, my sister.
So okay, I have another question for you. Because there's a lot of, and we're talking about modern women, right? And a lot of modern women will tell you that I will be submissive, or I'll do this for you like a wife when we are in a relationship, or when you will marry me. What is your opinion on that?
Well, if they have to tell you, then it's just show and tell. It's in fact, it's not show and tell. It's just show, demonstrate. But you see, a man is not going to wait. A serious man is not going to waste his time on somebody telling him what they're going to do. This is this thing I just said to you a minute ago. Placing conditions.
The conditions.
The man's not wasting. A serious man's not wasting his time. A man who wants to sleep with you might play around and lie to you, but ultimately, a man who's serious will not waste his time on you. And this is why the older you get, like I'm approaching 40, and the older I get, the like, if I was single now, my game level will be at an astronomical level.
Explain that. What is this game?
Because I understand women a lot better in terms of I understand what makes them tick, and I understand what puts them off. Right? But I also know who I am. I'm way more comfortable in my own shoes, way more comfortable in I'm less afraid of failure because I've already failed in other endeavors. And so if I go into it, like, I would know exactly what to say to get a woman for whatever purpose. And I'll probably end up having a lot more women. It sounds very conceited. I know. But I don't care. But I don't, I would know what to say to a woman to get her to do the thing that I want her to do. Now, of course, that doesn't work with every single woman. But ultimately, what the game is for a man in his 20s is about trying to get as much tail or as many women as possible. The game for a man who's much older is the quality of individuals. You just want to surround yourself with good quality people. But I think I forget how we got to this point. But anyway, long story short, like it's don't place conditions. Placing conditions is the biggest disaster that you can have. How do you say I will be? You see, because even when you start talking about these words like submission, I will be submissive. This is not something we need to discuss. You don't need to discuss things like that. I will see it or I won't.
Mm-hmm.
Again, are we talking about serious men or just men? This is what we have to be clear. If we're talking about serious men don't waste time with this.
Well, okay. So you're talking about serious men. I'm talking about modern men. Modern men, these are conversations. Men are now asking, are you submissive or not? Do you cook or clean or not? And these are conversations that 50-year-old men, and these are modern men. And that's why I said that some of these conversations that are going on is very immature. Because I do believe you can tell a woman is submissive. You don't got to ask that. How is she acting? How does she act around you? But we're talking about modern men, and these are conversations. Are you submissive? Do you cook and clean? If you got a baby, am I gonna be able to discipline them? So these are conversations, and I'm tired of them. Tired.
Don't waste your time with people like that.
What do you think about internet or getting on dating apps?
Which ones are we talking about?
I don't know.
The Bumbles and those ones?
Yeah.
I don't know. Again, these didn't exist when I was single, so I have no clue about. I'm getting used to them now. Again, like I'm just like, look, if and this is look, I'm not. So let me tell you a little story. I got my one of my best friends. I introduced him to his wife. You know what happened? My wife was with her. She's doing her hair, and I came and I was like, this girl's gorgeous. Where are you from? She's like, I'm from Ghana. My friend's from Ghana. I was like, how old are you? She's like 23. Friend at the time was like 33 or something. I called him. I was like, bro, where are you? Where are you? Come over, man. He's like, I'm busy. I was like, come, you need to come see this girl. So I'm telling her about my friend. And she's like, he's too old. He's 10 years older. He's too old. He's too old. Whatever. Somehow I convinced her to let me give him her number. They went on a date, and 3 years later they're getting married. Okay? Now, part of this problem is we don't have a community of men or women actively looking and vetting people for our people.
I agree.
If we have that, it's as simple as saying, you be good for Courtney. You be good for Courtney. The way you'll be good. Let me put you two together. And then also what that does, it helps the relationship because there are people there to vouch for you. There are people there who can, you're not playing, like if you really want to find out whether this person is good enough, you will trust this. If you care about the person that's connected you, then you will trust you will know at least their ability to vet people for you. And we don't have that anymore.
We don't
have that as much anymore. And we need to have allies in the right way, in the sense that people are like, they recognize what we need and they're like, okay, I'm going to put you two together. And he's not the only one. I also connected another friend of mine. They ended up breaking up after 3 years. But I connected another friend of mine like that. Because
let me find out you are a Cupid.
I don't know about, one Cupid arrow worked.
Good.
The rest of them failed. But because I'm constantly trying to get my friends to get married. Because it's tough. A couple of them are married now, but like for the most part, like they're, it's not nice being single at our age, looking the way we do. Me and my wife look super young for our age, so we still very active and stuff. We want to do fun stuff, and it's hard to do with single people.
Yeah,
hard, because it's, So, and by the way, anyway, I want to bring that up. Let's keep it moving. Okay, so people trying to auction you off.
Hold on.
I'll tell you offline. I'll tell you offline. What? We don't want to go there. All right, we don't want our Courtney auctioned off. What are you trying to say, Kima? We need to listen. Maybe this is what we do. Anyway, no, Courtney, we need to figure this thing out. You need some allies. You got brothers, right? You got brothers.
Yeah, I do.
Are they married?
I have 3, and they're all married. Yes. Mm-hmm.
By the way, that's a good sign of parenting.
Oh
Good
yeah.
sign of parenting, by the way.
All the
Yeah.
children is getting
When you
married.
have the children, when you have the children married, even if they are all attempted marriage,
Mm-hmm.
it's a good sign, especially the men. Like how old are they? Older or younger?
All older.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it
Yeah.
goes to show you, men eventually will settle down. They will ultimately settle down. But
Yeah.
I think, Court, man. I think you're a flower waiting to be plucked. This is one of those old African proverbs. Your flower waiting to be plucked. Here we go. People just like,
Oh Lord, this Jordan.
try to be perfect for Courtney and protect Courtney at all costs. Yeah, I mean, look, Courtney at the end of the day. Courtney, let me ask you a question.
Oh
If you met a
dear,
man,
this wasn't what this supposed to
let
turn
me ask you a question. Courtney, let me ask you a question. What question that will wrap was, my God, look at the time. We'll wrap up soon. Okay. Courtney, let me ask you a question. If you met a man and he said to you, I want you to stop doing what you're doing. You're progressing in your relationship. He's proposed. He wants
Mhm.
you to get married. And he's like, look, I really don't like you being out there, that personality, the way you are. Is that enough of a deal breaker for you?
No. I've said that before. Bye. Log off. Good day. Okay. Bye bye. Okay. No. I'm out.
Okay.
Sayonara, Negroes. No. I am not that. I don't need my last relationship, with my daughter's dad. That
Mhm.
was one of his stipulations. He said, I don't want our relationship to have social media. So
Mm.
social media was gone. We didn't do social media for like 2 years. So there
Mhm.
was no Facebooking or Instagram then when we were together. So not at all.
Mm.
Goodbye.
Oh, that's good.
I'm really easy breezy. I think with my again, what I was telling you, my issue is um knowing if someone is serious. Because
Mm.
I don't know. And I have a bad tendency, and this is women, like we get seduced so much by our ears. And men can tell us something, and the possibility of it is what brings those butterflies. And
Mhm.
that's been my issue in my relationships, is being told this and that, getting sold a good bill of dreams.
Mm.
But I'm trying to realize that I think men speak with actions and not their words. So it's Courtney, look what he's doing. He's telling you this, but look at it. And
Mhm.
then that's what happened this most recently, is me looking at actions. And it was like,
Mm.
I had to give him
Mhm.
some side eye. Like, wait a minute now. Me having to step back. That's a little
Mhm.
shifty. You act a little shifty
Mhm.
now.
Mhm.
So yeah.
That's the thing. Like the actions are key. See, because then if the actions are the priority rather than the words, then you spend less time on the people who have no action and all words,
Hmm.
and then there's less drama, less emotion, less issues being created. You know, and again, look, it's Honey, I'm gonna work on this for you.
Oh my God.
I'm gonna work on it. I'm gonna find some immigrant from Africa somewhere. No, I'm serious, man. I'm serious.
Oh, well.
We're gonna find
Hey.
it somewhere. We're gonna, but do you mind? Do you mind? Okay, couple things. Do you mind where he's from? Does he have to be American? All that?
He's
Doesn't matter.
he's black, right?
Black. Just has to be black.
Yeah, I prefer black men, yeah.
Black. No problem. Perfect.
Melanin, please. Not even real light skin. Not. See, is that being picky? Because even my mom was like, maybe you need to step out. And I've had people tell me that too. You focus on a black man, maybe you need to go step out. And I'm like, I just don't. I like what
No, 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 no. I don't think so. I think there are enough black men out there. I think
this
most
is.
of the black men. I don't even think the statistics are that high for England's terrible. By the way, like for black
Mhm,
men and white interracial relationships, big thing here. Um,
mhm,
we got really tiny numbers. At least you guys, like, thing is, you guys have a lot of beautiful looking people, both men
mhm.
and women. There are a lot of you guys. You guys are 50 million nearly something. That's bigger than Ghana. That's like 3 times the size of Ghana.
Mhm.
You have enough. You have enough. You have enough then. And
How did this turn into a therapy session?
oh God,
Jeez
court,
Louise.
court, court,
But
court, court. I'm happy we did this though. I'm really, really glad we did this because I've been wanting to do something like this with you, and
we have to
but
do a
the last
part two.
hour.
A part two, I went on this date, you know.
Yeah, let's do
Mhm.
that. Yeah. But you see, the date, though, has to be. Have you ever thought about speaking to like a matchmaker before? You matchmaker people.
I have no, because my issue. What my issue? Okay, it's not that I don't get approached. I get approached for decently, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But it's me it's me really my discernment. It's discerning, you know, is this right for you? Is he right for you?
But you
And
see, this,
I might have been picking wrong.
but that's what I'm saying. Going to a matchmaker, a matchmaker is essentially doing a
Maybe.
job that your father or your brother or your friends would have done, your male friends. You know, if I'm saying that matchmaker in the sense that somebody is there to say, okay, what do you want? Okay, you want this, you want that. These are the bare minimums, marriage, and they'll find somebody who has suits, who has a similar interest and the personality traits that you want, and see if they can pay you. Because you're both walking into it, you've both invested the time and the effort and the money to say,
Yeah.
I want to get married, I need to find a decent partner. But then, of course, when you get with that person, it's almost like an arranged marriage in a sense. But you have to try and find some commonality with each other, and that's why I say to you, the commitment, the butterflies have to go. Forget the butterflies; they're
Yeah.
attractive enough, and you're willing to take that shot and do life with them. Take a couple months courtship, 2 months, 3 months. You'll know after those 2 3 months. But going through someone is better because they have
Hmm.
already done the digging and the vetting for you. You know,
Yeah.
if I didn't hook my friend up with his wife, where would he be now? We don't know.
Don't know.
You know, where would she be now? You know,
Out
so
here lonely.
so Court, this has been real, my love. Thank you
It's
very
been
much.
real,
Really,
darling.
really, really. We've been to hell and back. But we made it out, my love. Honestly, this has been really, really fun. So before we go though, I need to pull your like people know who you are. Like half of this is your audience anyway. So people know who Courtney is. But I'll
So,
say this. I think keep up whatever it is that you're doing. Keep it
mhm.
up. But I'll say this to you. This is a direct message to you. Don't let it impede on what you need to achieve in your own personal life.
Mhm.
Whatever it is you're doing, the message is important for what you're doing in the community, but do not let it impede on what you need to achieve in your own personal life.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, you would have done all this work and all this service and have not
Mm.
reached the self satisfaction which we all crave as human
Right.
beings. All right.
I receive it.
So, on that note, thank you everybody for tuning in. Jordan, Rodney, all these people that came in, thank you very much. I appreciate you. Hit the like button on the way out. Peace and love. Take care.